Genesis 25. Abraham married again. His new wife was Keturah. She gave birth to Zimran, Jokshan, Medan, Midian, Ishbak, and Shua. Jokshan was the father of Sheba and Dedan. Dedan's descendants were the people of Assyria, Letush, and Leum. The sons of Midian were Ephah, Epher, Hanok, Abidah, and Eldah. All these were descendants of Keturah. Abraham left everything he owned to Isaac, but before Abraham died, he did give gifts to the sons of his other wives. Abraham sent them to the east to be away from Isaac. Abraham lived to be 175 years old. He breathed his last breath and died at an old age. He had lived a long and satisfying life. His sons Isaac and Ishmael buried him in the cave of Machpelah. This cave is in the field of Ephron, east of Mamre. Ephron was the son of Zohar the Hittite. This is the same field that Abraham had bought from the Hittites. Abraham was buried there with his wife Sarah. After Abraham died, God blessed his son Isaac. Isaac was now living in Beer-Lahai-roi. This is the family history of Ishmael, Abraham's son. Hagar, Sarah's Egyptian servant, was Ishmael's mother. These are the names of Ishmael's sons in the order they were born. The first son was Nebaioth. Then came Kedar, Abdil, Mibsam, Misham, Duma, Massa, Hadad, Tema, Jetur, Nephish, and Kedmah. These were Ishmael's sons, and these are the names of the tribal leaders. They are listed according to their settlements and camps. Ishmael lived 137 years. Then he breathed his last breath and died. Ishmael's descendants lived from Havilah to Shur. This is east of Egypt, stretching towards Assyria. Ishmael's descendants often attacked the descendants of his brothers. This is the family history of Isaac. Abraham had a son named Isaac. When Isaac was 40 years old, he married Rebekah. Rebekah was from northwest Mesopotamia. She was Bethuel's daughter and the sister of Laban the Aramean. Isaac's wife could not have children, so Isaac prayed to the Lord for her. The Lord heard Isaac's prayer, and Rebekah became pregnant. While she was pregnant, the baby struggled inside her. She asked, "Why is this happening to me?" Then she went to the Lord to get an answer from the Lord. The Lord said to her, "Two nations are in your body. Two groups of people will be taken from you. One group will be stronger than the other. The older will serve the younger." And when the time came, Rebekah gave birth to twins. The first baby was born red. His skin was like a hairy robe, so he was named Esau. The second baby was born. He was holding on to Esau's heel, so that baby was named Jacob. Isaac was 60 years old when they were born. When the boys grew up, Esau became a skilled hunter. He loved to be out in the fields, but Jacob was a quiet man. He stayed among the tents. Isaac loved Esau. Esau hunted the wild animals that Isaac enjoyed eating, but Rebekah loved Jacob. One day, Jacob was boiling a pot of vegetable soup. Esau came in from hunting in the fields. He was weak from hunger. So Esau said to Jacob, "Let me eat some of that red soup. I am weak with hunger." That is why people call him Edom. But Jacob said, "You must sell me your rights as the firstborn son." Esau said, "I am almost dead from hunger. If I die, all of my father's wealth will not help me." But Jacob said, "First, promise me that you will give it to me." So Esau made a promise to Jacob. In this way he sold his part of their father's wealth to Jacob. Then Jacob gave Esau bread and vegetable soup. Esau ate and drank, and then left. So Esau showed how little he cared about his rights as the firstborn son. Matthew 24. Jesus left the temple and was walking away, but his followers came to show him the temple buildings. Jesus asked, "Do you see all these buildings? I tell you the truth, every stone will be thrown down to the ground. Not one stone will be left on another." Later, Jesus was sitting on the Mount of Olives. His followers came to be alone with him. They said, "Tell us when these things will happen, and what will happen to show us that it is the time for you to come again and for the world to end?" Jesus answered, "Be careful that no one fools you. Many people will come in my name. They will say, 'I am the Christ,' and they will fool many people. You will hear about wars and stories of wars that are coming, but don't be afraid. These things must happen before the end comes. Nations will fight against other nations, kingdoms will fight against other kingdoms, and there will be times when there is no food for people to eat, and there will be earthquakes in different places. These things are like the first pains when something new is about to be born. Then men will arrest you and hand you over to be hurt and kill you. They will hate you because you believe in me. At that time, many who believed will lose their faith. They will turn against each other and hate each other. Many false prophets will come and cause many people to believe false things. There will be more and more evil in the world, so most people will stop showing their love for each other. But the person who continues to be strong until the end will be saved. The good news about God's kingdom will be preached in all the world to every nation, and then the end will come. Daniel, the prophet, spoke about the horrible thing that destroys. You will see this terrible thing standing in the holy place. You who read this should understand what it means. At that time, the people in Judah should run away to the mountains. If a person is on the roof of his house, he must not go down to get anything out of his house. If a person is in the field, he must not go back to get his coat. At that time, it will be hard for women who are pregnant or who have nursing babies. Pray that it will not be winter or a Sabbath day when these things happen, and you have to run away. This is because at that time there will be much trouble. There will be more trouble than has ever happened since the beginning of the world, and nothing as bad as that will ever happen again. God has decided to make that terrible time short. If that time were not made short, then no one would go on living. But God will make that time short to help the people he has chosen. At that time, someone might say to you, "Look, there is the Christ." Or another person might say, "There he is." But don't believe them. False Christs and false prophets will come and perform great things and miracles. They will do these things to the people God has chosen. They will fool them, if that is possible. Now I have warned you about this before it happens. If people tell you, "The Christ is in the desert," don't go there. If they say, "The Christ is in the inner room," don't believe it. When the Son of Man comes, he will be seen by everyone. It will be like lightning flashing in the sky that can be seen everywhere. Wherever there is a dead body, there the vultures will gather. Soon after the trouble of those days, this will happen. The sun will grow dark and the moon will not give its light. The stars will fall from the sky and everything in the sky will be changed. At that time, there will be something in the sky that shows the Son of Man is coming. All the peoples of the world will cry. They will see the Son of Man coming on clouds in the sky. He will come with great power and glory. He will use a loud trumpet to send his angels all around the earth. They will gather his chosen people from every part of the world. The fig tree teaches us a lesson. When its branches become green and soft and new leaves begin to grow, then you know that summer is near. So also, when you see all these things happening, you will know that the time is near, ready to come. I tell you the truth. All these things will happen while the people of this time are still living. The whole world, earth and sky, will be destroyed, but the words I have said will never be destroyed. No one knows when that day or time will be. Even the Son and the angels in heaven don't know. Only the Father knows. When the Son of Man comes, it will be the same as what happened during Noah's time. In those days before the flood, people were eating and drinking. They were marrying and giving their children to be married. They were still doing those things until the day Noah entered the boat. They knew nothing about what was happening. But when the flood came and all those people were destroyed, it will be the same when the Son of Man comes. 2 men will be working together in the field. 1 man will be taken and the other left. 2 women will be grinding grain with the handmill. 1 woman will be taken and the other will be left. So always be ready. You don't know the day your Lord will come. Remember this. If the owner of the house knew what time a thief was coming, then the owner would be ready for him. The owner would watch and not let the thief enter his house. So you must be ready. The Son of Man will come at a time you don't expect him. Who is the wise and trusted servant? The master trusts one servant to give the other servants their food at the right time. When the master comes and finds the servant doing his work, the servant will be very happy. I tell you the truth, the master will choose that servant to take care of everything the master owns. But what will happen if the servant is evil and thinks his master will not come back soon? Then that servant will begin to beat the other servants. He will feast and get drunk with others like him. And the master will come when the servant is not ready and is not expecting him. Then the master will punish that servant. He will send him away to be among the hypocrites. There people will cry and grind their teeth with pain. Esther chapter 1. This is what happened during the time of King Xerxes. He was the king who ruled the 127 areas from India to Kush. In those days, King Xerxes ruled from his capital city of Susa. In the 3rd year of his rule, he gave a banquet. It was for all his important men and royal officers. The army leaders from the countries of Persia and Media were there, and the important men from all Xerxes' empire were there. The banquet lasted 180 days. All during that time, King Xerxes was showing off the great wealth of his kingdom, and he was showing his own honor and greatness. When the 180 days were over, the king gave another banquet. It was held in the courtyard of the palace garden for 7 days. It was for everyone in the palace at Susa, from the greatest to the least important. The courtyard had fine white curtains and purple drapes. These were tied to silver rings on marble pillars by white and purple cords. And there were gold and silver couches. These were on the floor set with tiles of white marble, shells and gems. Wine was served in gold cups of various kinds, and there was plenty of the king's wine because he was very generous. The king commanded that each guest be permitted to drink as much as he wished. He had told the wine servers to serve each man what he wanted. Queen Vashti also gave a banquet. It was for the women in the royal palace of King Xerxes. On the 7th day of the banquet, King Xerxes was very happy because he had been drinking much wine. He gave a command to the 7 eunuchs who served him. They were Mehuman, Biztha, Harbona, Bigtha, Agbatha, Zethar, and Carcas. He commanded them to bring him Queen Vashti, wearing her royal gown. She was to come to show her beauty to the people and important men. She was very beautiful. The eunuchs told Queen Vashti about the king's command, but she refused to come. Then the king became very angry. His anger was like a burning fire. It was a custom for the king to ask advice from experts about law and order. So King Xerxes spoke with the wise men. They would know the right thing to do. The wise men the king usually talked to were Karshana, Shethar, Admatha, Tarshish, Meres, Marsana, and Memucan. They were 7 of the important men of Persia and Media. These 7 had special privileges to see the king. They had the highest rank in the kingdom. The king asked those men, "What does the law say must be done to Queen Vashti? She has not obeyed the command of King Xerxes, which the eunuchs took to her." Then Memucan spoke to the king and the other important men. He said, "Queen Vashti has not done wrong to the king alone. She has also done wrong to all the important men and all the people in all the empire of King Xerxes. All the wives of the important men in Persia and Media will hear about the queen's actions. Then they will no longer honor their husbands. They will say, 'King Xerxes commanded Queen Vashti to be brought to him, but she refused to come.' Today the wives of the important men of Persia and Media have heard about the queen's actions, and they will speak in the same way to their husbands, and there will be no end to disrespect and anger. So our king, if it pleases you, give a royal order, and let it be written in the laws of Persia and Media, which cannot be changed. The law should say Vashti is never again to enter the presence of King Xerxes. Also let the king give her place as queen to someone who is better than she is. And let the king's order be announced everywhere in his large kingdom. Then all the women will respect their husbands, from the greatest to the least important." The king and his important men were happy with this advice. So King Xerxes did as Memucan suggested. He sent letters to all the areas of the kingdom. A letter was sent to each area, written in its own form of writing, and a letter was sent to each group of people, written in their own language. These letters announced that each man was to be the ruler of his own family. Also, each family was to speak the language of the man. Acts chapter 24. 5 days later, Ananias the high priest went to the city of Caesarea. With him were some of the Jewish elders and a lawyer named Tertullus. They had come to make charges against Paul before the governor. Paul was called into the meeting, and Tertullus began to accuse him, saying, "Most excellent Felix, our people enjoy much peace because of you, and many wrong things in our country are being made right through your wise help. We accept these things always and in every place, and we are thankful for them. But I do not want to take any more of your time. I beg you to be kind and listen to our few words. This man is a troublemaker. He makes trouble among the Jews everywhere in the world. He is the leader of the Nazarene group. Also, he was trying to make the temple unclean, but we stopped him. And we wanted to judge him by our own law, but the officer Lysias came and used much force to take him from us, and Lysias commanded his people to come to you to accuse us. You can decide if all these things are true. Ask him some questions yourself." The other Jews agreed and said that all of this was true. The governor made a sign for Paul to speak, so Paul said, "Governor Felix, I know that you have been a judge over this nation for a long time, so I am happy to defend myself before you. I went to worship in Jerusalem only 12 days ago. You can learn for yourself that this is true. Those who are accusing me did not find me arguing with anyone in the temple. I was not stirring up the people, and I was not making trouble in the temple or in the synagogues or in the city. They cannot prove the things they are saying against me now. But I will tell you this. I worship the God of our ancestors as a follower of the way of Jesus. The Jews say that the way of Jesus is not the right way, but I believe everything that is taught in the law of Moses and that is written in the books of the prophets. I have the same hope in God that they have, the hope that all people, good and bad, will be raised from death. This is why I always try to do what I believe is right before God and men. I was away from Jerusalem for several years. I went back there to bring money to my people and to offer sacrifices. I was doing this when they found me in the temple. I had finished the cleansing ceremony. I had not made any trouble. No people were gathered around me. But some Jews from Asia were there. They should be here standing before you. If I have done anything wrong, they are the ones who should accuse me. Or ask these Jews if they found any wrong in me when I stood before the Jewish council in Jerusalem. But I did say one thing when I stood before them. Are you judging me today because I believe that people will rise from death? Felix already understood much of the way of Jesus. He stopped the trial and said, "When Commander Lysias comes here, I will decide about your case." Felix told the officer to keep Paul guarded, but he told the officer to give Paul some freedom and to let his friends bring what he needed. After some days, Felix came to his wife Drusilla, who was a Jew. He asked for Paul to be brought to him. He listened to Paul talk about believing in Christ Jesus. But Felix became afraid when Paul spoke about things like right living, self-control, and the time when God will judge the world. He said, "Go away now. When I have more time, I will call for you." At the same time, Felix hoped that Paul would give him some money. So he sent for Paul often and talked with him. But after 2 years, Porcius Festus became governor. Felix was no longer governor, but he had left Paul in prison to please the Jews.